Good afternoon, everyone, once again. Good afternoon, Abhinav sir. Good afternoon, Malik sir. Uh, it's nice to have you over here. So, by far, we have learned about the algebra part, like from Abhinav sir, a grammar practice we did with Monica ma'am, and a nice session with Pavni ma'am about the anxiety issues, how to deal with it. So, we will start with the next session in coming few minutes. I'll just wait for a minute or two so that the participants will join us. We'll start the session at 4. Welcome, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, sir. How are you?
Perfect.
So wait for a few more minutes so that the other joinees could.
No, not an issue, not an issue, sir. Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah, I guess it's 4 p.m. Students have started to join. I guess we can start our session with you. We are going to learn more about the SAT exam preparation part, like the different thing. Uh, Over to you, sir.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, the aim of my presentation or my talk this afternoon is one of the first three sessions from the reading part. And this afternoon, I shall be covering precisely two things, that's the types of passages and the types of questions that you will are expected to see in the SAT reading exam. See, what I must bring to your notice is that the reading paper is a very temperamental kind of a paper. It's unlike mathematics or writing. The reading part, it's not. It is, see, there is no set like mathematics or writing have set answers and set. Uh, there are, if you have the concept right, you're unlikely to go wrong. However, in reading, especially SAT reading, is extremely temperamental. For example, if I say that Anil is my name, I have a very severe temper, right? Now, temper means, in this sentence, it means, shall we say, I'm get angry very soon. But then I say that my wife says, you temper your anger. So now when see the word temper, it now means to control. So the same word used two times in two different sentences, it has two diametrically opposite meanings. The SAT paper, the reading part, is therefore just not comprehension. It is just not knowing the meaning of a certain word or a certain phrase or a certain paragraph, etc. It's not just knowing. It is just not comprehending or making sense of the text. It is slightly more than that. It is the ability to find factual information, but also the capacity to understand how these various things are together focused towards an argument or focused towards generating the main idea of that passage or that paragraph or whatever, right? So that is what is the difference between the reading paper and the other papers that the mathematics and the writing paper. Now, in mathematics, if you know a formula, you're going to get the answer right. In writing, if you know the he or she or they or them or there or there, probably you'll get it right. But here, it is your ability to comprehend the text and understand why a certain thing has been written is very, very important. So that is why you will find that in the reading part of the paper, right, there is what you call, instead of just trying to understand the thing, we'll have to start understanding as to why certain parts of the passage were written to further an idea written down by the author. The good part is that these skills are not you are not born with these skills. These skills are learnable, and it is our endeavor, therefore, that we can teach you these skills so that you are able to get past this reading paper in the best possible manner that you want. Right. Now, the total paper for reading is 400 marks, which you all know. It has 65 minutes. It has 52 questions. And we have five passages. We have five passages, right? Now, when you see the passages are such that they actually transcend a whole range of subjects, right? The passages normally which come in this paper are first fiction. That's a literature passage. So a literature passage would probably be 2 pages of some textbook or some book written by somebody. It can be old, be written by Charles Dickens or somebody, or written by somebody who's new, right? But it is 2 pages of a certain book, and therefore it does not have what is called a main idea, but it has a certain structure. So that's a fiction passage. Then we come to social sciences. The social sciences, it could deal with a psychological issue or a physiological issue, or it could deal with something that is current or something that happened in the past, right? It could deal with stuff like that. It would deal with, shall we say, psychology or something like that. And we will have a subject, a pattern, paper on that. You have natural science. Natural science is to do with animals or leaves or plants, etc. And as you go along reading, you will see there is so much that you will learn just by reading the passages. There'll be things on the DNA, there'll be things on genetics, there'll be things on nature, there'll be things on amphibians, there'll be things on how birds fly, why they fly in a V formation, etc., etc., etc. Right? There is so much that you can learn just by reading these passages. Then you have passage on history. It's primarily focused on US history, right? On US history, and it's and if you see US history, if you're not aware of US history, probably some things might sound alien, like slavery or women's rights or etc. Or the temperance movement. They might sound alien, but a history passage definitely forms part of the paper. And then you have a paired passage. A paired passage is what? It's actually two little papers. It's actually the essence of the paper, that it is two passages on a certain subject. Uh, the passages may be congruent, that means they say the same thing, or they may be divergent, that one says something else and one says something else, right? Uh, it is These passages test both your ability to understand each little passage by itself, as also the relationship between the two passages, as to how these two passages are related to each other, right? Also, so it also generates the ability in the students to be able to understand that me and you might disagree on something, but there are some aspects that we will agree on. Shall we say that the two passages are on slavery. Both of them, one says slavery is not good, one says slavery is good, right? But both of them will agree that men have the right to be equal, right? So your ability to be able to extract the congruent points from divergent topics is also one of the things that the SAT tests you on. It's something that uh, when you practice or when you learn, it's a learnable skill, right? Each passage is about 700 to 500 to 750 words. And some of the two passages, especially the science passage and the social science passage, may also have graphs. They also may have graphs. So when these graphs are what's it called shown to you, when the graphs come in the thing, there will be graph questions which are exclusively graph questions, and there are graph questions that require an understanding of the passage as well as the graph. Right? All right. Most of these passages, most of them are text based. They're text based, right? They're text based, except for the graph questions, in which there's a relationship between the graph and the text is also tested. Right. Now, uh, to the paper is 400 marks, and it has various types of questions. It has various types of questions, and the questions range from they are all types, and they test each skill of yours in your ability to understand that passage, right? Let me just go over these questions. Today, my intention is just to go over these questions with you. And having done that, if there's anything else I need to tell you, I will. And then I'll take some questions from you also that on this little aspect, the starting point of the reading part, right? If you have any questions, I'll answer them. Now, what are the types of questions? The first question you will get is a big picture question. What's a big picture? See, actually, it's testing your understanding of the passage as a whole. They may ask you to summarize it, identify main points, or determine the overall purpose of what this passage is about. Right? It normally be worded as what is the main idea of the passage, what is the central theme of the passage, what is the main purpose of the passage. It'll probably be worded in those manners, and it is the intent is to make you identify whether you understood the main idea, the main thread, the main focus of the passage. All right. The next is a simple question, which is a literal comprehension question. In that, it's a fact question. It's a fact question, right? For example, the passage is about me. They'll say, "What did Mr. Malik do on Saturdays?" So you go and find the answer and write it down, right? It is you go and find the answer and you write it down. Next, inference questions. Inference. Now, what are inference questions? Inference questions are primarily those questions which are not, the answers are not stated as they should be, or they should not be, they are not stated in verbatim as the given in the answer choices. You have to either deduce an answer or conclude an answer or speculate an answer. You'll have to do something which is different, but you'll have to, but the only thing is in the SAT for the inference questions, right? The inferences are very narrow, they're very short. For example, if I wear spectacles, you can infer that my eyes need a correction. But you cannot infer that I study very much or I read too much. That's why my eyes are spoiled. Right? That is the difference. Suppose I say that because of the hills, the disease did not spread. Right? I can infer that if there were no hills, the disease will spread faster. Right? These are the kinds of inferences that you are expected to draw in the questions which are dealing with inference, and you will be taught these questions as you go along. How to answer these questions is the subject of my next class, which is, I think, on the next Sunday, and which I will do with you when I. This is as far as the inference questions are concerned. The answers are not stated, right? For example, they say, how was the access to the land during the narrator's boyhood, right? So the answer probably will be that my pony could take me wherever I wanted. There were no fences then. So you have to infer that if there were no fences then, there are fences now. So you'll probably get an answer which says that the access to the land was more open, was less restricted than it is now. That's how an inference question works. Next are paired questions. You have paired questions, right? Or paired, or you have literal comprehension or function questions which are paired. Paired. Now, what does that mean? The first question, there are two parts. One is the head, one is the tail. The head is the question which has the question per se, right? According to the author, where should food be grown? Right? That is the question. Now, and then I have four answer choices. This is the head. And then I have a tail. The tail says from which of the following lines provides you the best evidence for the answer to the previous question. So technically, my answer to question the head must come from these four sets of lines. So the four sets of lines be 9 to 12, 12 to 13, 18 to 21, 21 and 24. It'd be like that. So I read those lines, I understand those lines, and I match an answer. Right? That is what you understand by a paired question. Right? And normally, if you see 52 questions in the SAT, you should get about 20 of these. Right? Actually, for us, if we are all from India, you must understand it's the easiest for us. Right? The examiner is asking you a question. He's telling you, bhaiya, ye char answer hai. These are the four answers. Right? And then he's telling you, you may not know where to get them from. These are the four sets of lines from where I picked up the answer. It's your ability to read those lines, pick out an answer, match them one by one with the answers on top and get an answer. It can't be simpler. But as you go along, you will find that at times it really tests your ability to comprehend. It tests your ability to reconstruct what the fellow is saying, right? And how he's translated it into an answer. For example, what does city planning result in? The answer is the one of the lines say it results in uniformity. The answer choice does not say that it results in uniformity. He turns it around and says that it lacks variety. He's saying the same thing. He's saying the same thing. But your and mine ability to be able to understand that uniformity also means lacking variety is what the test is all about. Right. Function questions or purpose questions. These are nice questions. These are nice questions. They actually test the reader, test the examinee's ability to be able to understand not what the author is saying, not what is he saying, but why is he saying it? Why? Why has he put the fourth paragraph into the passage? What do these three words A, B, and C written in lines 14, 15, and 16 actually do to the tone of the passage? What do they do? What do they do? Shall we say, what is the purpose? What's purpose to these words serve? Right? So you're not actually going to tell me what is this fellow saying. You have to tell me why is he saying it? Why? The answer will be a why and not a what. That is what is important for us to understand in a function question. A function question may often be actually combined with a paired question. So you'll get the evidence part also down, so you can match them and get an answer. That's what a function question is all about. Right. A very simple question, but it comes, you have what, 7 to 8 questions like this in the paper. 7 to 8 questions, right? And their vocabulary in context. Now, I just gave you that example of I have a severe temper and I need to temper my anger, right? Now, vocabulary in context actually tests your ability to use context clues to identify what does this sentence mean or what this word mean in the context of the passage or the sentence or the paragraph or whatever he says, right? Now, the questions are normally worded like, as used in line 13, right? Tiresome most nearly means. Or as used in line 32, modest most nearly means. He's not asking you the meaning. He's not asking you the meaning. In fact, what he's asking you is, as used in the sentence, what does this word or this phrase actually mean? That is the meaning of a vocabulary in context question. Fortunately, we get about 7 to 8 of these questions out of the 52 questions. Right? 7 to 8. And if you have a reasonable vocabulary, and if you continue to build your vocabulary as you prepare for the SAT, doing these questions is not a major issue. It's not a major issue. These are questions that you should actually look on to bank on to get the 64 marks of these questions. It's a very, 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 these are questions which help enhance your score. Next questions are rhetorical strategy or passage organization, right? It tells you, it tests your ability to be able to understand the passage structure as well as the effects of particular rhetorical figures, right? It tells you how do you understand this passage. That just probably tell you that if there's it, you'll have to understand how this passage was organized, right? How it was organized. It's simple. Once you practice it, it won't be very difficult. Tone and attitude. Tone and attitude. You know, words or phrases, they change the tone of a sentence, they change the tone of a paragraph, they change the tone of a passage, right? So you'll get questions on how, right, specific words or phrases contribute to an author's tone or the attitude, right? You'll get questions on that. Then you get questions on supporting and undermining claims, wherein you have to identify answers that support an author's claim or weaken an author's claim, right? The question will be so worded, and you need to find answers which support or weaken what the author is saying. Right? Right. Then you have analogy questions. Analogy. Now, what is analogy? Analogy is I got sick, I went to hospital. Right? I got sick, I went to hospital. Now I need analogy means something similar to this kind of thing, right? Or I wanted to become a scientist, I could not, so I became a novelist, right? So probably you will find an answer that is saying that the science fiction movie writers, right, they dispensed with the idea that they could colonize the planets, and now they stopped going to the planets and started going to the asteroids, right? That is a similar thing. They realized they could not do something, they did something else. So that's an analogy. You'll get questions on that kind. So you'll be able to test your ability to draw parallels between different situations. All right. The next is you have paired passages. Paired passages. So what are paired passages? Paired passages are normally, as I mentioned it to you earlier also, I mentioned it to you in the types of passages, right? It is your ability to compare texts with different, often conflicting points of view, and to infer also from them, as I mentioned to you earlier, how, despite being conflicting, despite being divergent in your views, you are able to agree on a certain amount of points. Is the other part which we need to be, this is which tested in these passages. The passages are small. The passage number 1 is 35 lines, passage number 2 is 34 lines, right? So there are questions on the passages, there are questions on the relationship between the two passages, right? All right. Next, you have graph questions, right? So these test your ability to interpret information that is presented in graph or table form, right? And also to determine how or whether they support, right, certain pieces of information that are contained in the passage, right? That is what is the purpose of a graph question. There are always 6 to 7 or 7 to 8 graph questions, right? 6 to 7 or 7 to 8 graph questions also in the paper, right? And if you are able to read a graph or a table or a chart properly, these are also marks that we normally take that a student will be able to acquire. So if I break down this whole thing, these are the types of questions. If I break this all down into the number of questions out of the 52 questions that you have, right, which you have to do in 65 minutes, and there are a total of 5 passages. So whatever you may divide, you divide it however you want. You divide it however you want. You divide 65 by 5, you come to 13. You divide 65 by 52, you come to a minute plus a few seconds. You divide 400 by 52, you come to 7.8, right? So what does it tell you? It tells you the 7.8 is the penalty or the gain. You do a question right, go up by 7.8. You don't do it, come back. See, there may be a scale or a factor or whatever applied, but in the essence, in the ultimate analysis, the more questions you write, the better your score. The better your score. The test of reading is all against time. It is your ability to be able to do the questions quickly, do them correctly, and do all the questions is important. As we go along, depending on our ability to read, our ability to understand, we might set targets that are not 52 on 52, right? It might be simpler to throw away a few questions which I find take too much time, right? And do just that many number of questions but which get me to a target score that I want. That's also possible, because I can't spend 10 minutes to do a certain question. If it gets me only 8 marks, 10 minutes doesn't mean it gives me 80. It gives me 8 marks, but it denies my ability to complete the paper. That is something which I need to always keep in mind when I am doing the reading paper. And I will discuss this again with you when I discuss the reading strategies part of the thing in the third session, which was probably on the Sunday after the next, right? All right. See, actually, I can keep talking, but it's be infructuous. It be infructuous, right? What I want you, what I've already now explained to you the types of passages and the types of questions that come. Should there be any questions, I am prepared to answer them as of now. Uh, I believe the host is supposed to. I'm supposed to take the question. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So that was a great session. We got a very much completely different perspective about reading, how exactly it differs, like from a method, a step-by-step approach in the quants what we have, and how exactly the things work over there. But it's a completely different perspective I could learn over here. So I would like you to take you through questions like a few. Uh, what is inference questions you mentioned? Could you please explain with some examples how to recognize that type of questions?
See, an inference question is primarily a question in which there's a certain see. The first and the best thing was first thing you must understand is that you're in the SAT. In the SAT, there is nothing that I have to think or believe or understand or say that is not contained in the text. Unlike other examinations, the CBS, the SAT has to have just one answer. It has to have one answer only, right? Now, what's an inference question? An inference question is a question in which, shall we say, I'm giving you an example, right? I'm giving you an example. Uh, what can be inferred about access to, shall we say, access the to Colaba, shall we say, 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago. What can be inferred about access to Colaba 20 years ago? Right now, I see in the text there'll be an answer that says, right, when the author's 48, he says when I was 20, that means 20 years ago, right? There were no security gates in Colaba, right? There was no this thing in Colaba. What's it called? Matlab, you could go from, shall we say, wherever you wanted to the US club without any stopping on the route by the Navy or the Army, etc., etc., etc. So what do I infer? What do I infer? The one of the answer choices would probably be that in those days, right? Those days, right? If I say there were no checkpoints then, that means I am actually saying there are checkpoints now, right? I'm saying there are checkpoints. I can infer, therefore, that at that time access was easier than it is today, right? That is an inference, right? And I told you, I gave you an example of myself. If I'm wearing spectacles, you can infer that my eyes need correction, but you cannot infer that I study very hard. I read too much, right? I can't infer that. That is what I mean by inference. And I said in the SAT, the inferences are very small. They're very shorter,
Mhm.
right? There are, because of the hills, the disease did not spread. The inference I can make is that if there were no hills, the disease would have spread faster.
Mhm.
But that's all. I cannot do any. I cannot make any major, like if I say that you sir can play with, you can use your left hand and your right hand very well. So I can't say that you will be a great doubles tennis player.
Correct.
I can't infer that. That is what I mean by inference.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Moving to the next question. Is it good to read questions before reading the passage? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I've seen that. I see the question. The question, if I get it right, is just should you first read the questions and
Hmm.
then read the passage,
Hmm.
right? First read the questions and then read the passage. Now see, I say a simple thing. I say a simple thing. If you see this, I'm actually quoting matter of fact. I'm not beating around the bush. I'm actually quoting from exact papers. If you see an SAT paper, 9 out of the 11, or 9 out of the 10 questions have line references. They have references to lines. That, as mentioned in line 15, what does this mean? What is the role of the fourth paragraph? What is the role of the 10th paragraph? Right? What is the purpose of this, and what is the purpose? This is how the questions are. Then you have a supporting evidence question, that this is the answer question. These are the lines I want the answer from. See, what happens, sir, is that even if I mug up the passage, for every question, I have to go back into the text and read.
Hmm.
I have to go back into the text and read. Right now, my views, if you want you're asking me my views are like this. So if you mug up the passage also, you mug it up, take 5 minutes and mug it up, right? For every question, you have to go back and answer. You have to go and read a particular part of the text, right? Now, suppose you took 5 minutes to read five passages, that's 25, right? How many minutes? You're left with 40 minutes for 52 questions. I have to draw a balance between this. So what I recommend, or what we recommend, right, is that when you read a passage, you get the main idea. The main idea. The main idea is what? The main idea of the passage that you can extract in about a minute, minute and a half. Right? If you're trained properly, you can extract the main idea of a passage in about a minute, minute and a half. Read the introduction, read the conclusion, read the first and last line of every paragraph to ensure that the main idea did not change en route.
Mhm.
Right? So you get the main idea of the passage. Now, why is it important? Why is it important? Suppose the passage is on corona, right? It's on coronavirus. So the question is, what is the author's view on the coronavirus? Right? Now, I see a question. I see a question. I have four answers. Now, yeah, if I know that the main idea is that it's a bad thing, so I know it's negative. So when I look at that answer choices, I remove all the positive answers. I'm left with the negative ones. I choose between them and choose an answer. So the essence of the whole thing, sir, is that I need marks. I have to get marks and I have to get them quick. I have to do my answers quickly and do them correctly. You understand, sir?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, in my opinion, I don't recommend that you first see the question and then go and see the thing. Why? Because if I see the question says what is the role of the fifth paragraph, unless you're going to read the fifth paragraph as you read the passage, I don't have a problem. But you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it.
Mhm.
If the answer choice is line 16 to 18, 19 to 21, 32 to 33, you don't even know where they are. Right? So I don't recommend reading the question and going into the passage, but I do recommend spend a very little time on reading the passage, right? And then read the passage in detail when you are getting the marks.
Correct, correct,
My
correct.
view.
Yeah. Thank you for sir, your detailed answer. There is one more question. Like, is there any specific book you would recommend for reading section specifically? And like, how much time should be given for this preparation for reading section to hold?
I will tell you, what we propagate. We propagate in the institution where I teach, right? What we propagate is it's like this. So see, number one, I will when I come to the reading strategy part, which is there on the second Sunday from now, right? On the second Sunday from now, I will bring a list of books which I recommend that you read. A reading diet, shall we say,
Hmm.
right? A reading diet. I'll also bring with me online sites which I recommend that the students get on to, shall we say, for paired passages, for science passages, for science, for natural science passages. I even have a site for, we've identified a site for paired passages that you have. It's a debate site. So you have two people talking, both of them saying the same thing, one saying something else, right? So we have sites for that, and we have books, also, right? And there was another part of this question which I think I forgot. If you just tell me, I will mention this again. I answer it. There's another part of the question.
Okay,
No, there was something else in the question which I don't think I've answered.
I'll just check. How much time should we give?
Yeah. Now, sir, see, you have to understand, sir. So you are here to get a score. The score is 1600,
Hmm.
right? 1600. Mathematics is 800. Writing is 400. Reading is 400, right? Our best batsmen are writing, sir, and mathematics. They have to score the most runs, right? And the reading must be a backup. Must be a backup, right? Now, I actually cannot say how much time you should or should not. It depends on how you read at the moment. What are your reading skills? Do you need to read more, right? There's a basic start. You have a basic start point, and there's a level that I need you to take you up to. So my thing is, identify your start point. I see the level I need to take you to. I see the gap. I see the gap. I work on that gap. I work on that gap to bridge this gap from your present score to the score that I want you to get. So it might vary for various kids. Some may not need too many reading classes. Some may need too many reading classes. It varies. It will vary, sir. It will vary, right? And what happens is there is a certain amount of theory that we need to put across. We have to put it across. And there are a certain amount of tests that we need to do. So when we do the tests, once we evaluate that, we exactly know how much time a student needs or doesn't. But I cannot, unilaterally at this moment say, yes, I can only say so much. If you are studying for 2 hours, right, mathematics and writing must take more of the time than reading. That's what I'm trying to say,
Mhm.
right? All right.
Okay. So one more question is: do students need to have a strong insights in vocabulary in order to be able to answer all questions?
See, sir, vocabulary now, vocabulary is a thing. Vocabulary is actually the bedrock of understanding and comprehending. It's a bedrock, right? What happens if I ask you a question? I ask you a question that the author's attitude, for so and so thing, right? And I give you four answers. And the words are reticent, the words are nostalgic, the words are sophomoric, and the word is pragmatic,
Hmm.
right? Now, I don't know three meanings. I don't know the meaning of reticent. I don't know the meaning of juvenile, sophomoric, and I don't know the meaning of nostalgic. Right. So
Hmm.
I'm stuck. So vocabulary. So what we do is what we recommend is that when you suppose you join us, you want to study for 4 months.
Hmm.
So when you read for 4 months, you're reading books and you're reading novels, etc., etc., etc.
Hmm.
Every day you will come across words you don't know. Maybe
Correct.
5 words, 6 words, 10 words. So if you write them down, Google them,
Hmm.
understand the word, make a sentence. So if you are studying for 5 months, that's 130, 50 days, right? 5 words per day, it's 750, right? Even if you remember 300, you see the quantum improvement it makes in your ability to comprehend, your ability to express, and general purpose confidence.
Hmm.
General purpose confidence. Your essay becomes better, right? Your essay, your confidence levels rise once your vocabulary. So vocabulary, I'm not see. I will see. This kid has to have a reasonable vocabulary. He
Right.
has to have.
Okay. That's great, sir. Thank you for this answer again. Uh, Sir, how can a math inclined person having having a less interest in English can take a start, like the immediate steps for starting the reading section?
So what happens? See, what is to the benefit of this young man who's asked you this question is
Mhm.
that he's mathematically oriented, right? Whether it's mathematically oriented or whatever, there is always some reading to be done. There's
Hmm.
always some reading to be done. Even in maths, you have to read something and understand it, right? If somebody said something, Euclid said something, and so Pythagoras said something else, you have to understand it to read. So
Hmm.
there has to be a certain amount of reading skill which has to be generated, right?
Right.
So it is this. I see. The only thing I can, tell this boy at the moment is right that there has to be a lot of effort to put in for reading, but the reading in the SAT, the paper, the questions that come in the SAT, right, are all nearly every year of the same type. And there are a number of questions which can be done. And we try and do them as we do mathematics, actually. We try and do them in that manner. So if he's able to generate or understand that skill, it becomes easier. But so whoever's asked you this question, he has to read, sir. There's no option.
Correct, correct. So reading is the tip that you need to start with. So one more question, like, could you please once repeat the types of passage?
So the types of passages, sir, are social studies, sir, literature,
Mhm.
history, natural sciences, sir, and and paired passage. A paired passage will be it's normally on science or social or history also. Sometimes like slavery was good, slavery is not good. Someone says slavery is good, someone slavery is not good. Stuff like that. It's on U.S. history, right? You have passages. That these are the five kinds of passages that come.
Okay. And the last question for the day, should we have a knowledge of the American history or constitution so that if yes, what can we refer to?
So let's see. I see you the what happens in US history is like this, sir. What happens is that our kids are not for them US history is alien. It's a foreign subject,
Mhm.
right? It's a foreign subject. They know Donald Trump and they know Bill Clinton, they know everybody, but they know nothing about how America was made,
Mhm.
right? How what happened in the Boston Tea Party, what happened in the what's slavery, what was the Confederation, what was the Civil War, etc., etc., etc. Like we what we do in our this thing is that we know that the children do not have adequate knowledge of US history, and there is a necessity. You see, what happens is there's kids who don't believe that there can be a thing like slavery. उसको समझ ही नहीं आता.
Mhm.
He doesn't understand that even a kid of today cannot believe that there was something called slavery in America,
Correct.
right? But to make him, to sensitize him to the various parts of US history, how US history progressed from the time the America got in, from the time of the pilgrims, etc., right up to now, we run a class. We run a class step by step indicating timelines in US history.
Okay.
and highlighting those important parts. The slavery, the women's rights, the temperance movement, right? The Civil War, and stuff like that. We highlight all that so that the kid, when he sees a passage on US history, he's not lost. That's the intention. But any major, and when I come to the reading part, I'll also suggest the history books, the history thing.
Correct. Correct. So
Not
this
an issue.
students shall have a little generic idea about the about the history, so that he can get a sense of the words what exactly they mean.
No, sir, no, see, when we practice reading for the SAT, no, sir, when we practice reading, like we read science articles, we read social studies, we read history, we read paired passages. So
Mhm.
we are by no means stretch of imagination imagining that one of those passages will come in the exam. Our intention is that we make you read all these things so that when you see a passage like this in the exam, you know exactly, you it's not a surprise.
Correct.
Ki yaar, ye passage, this was the type of passage which had to come, so it has come. So it's not a surprise anymore.
Okay.
Do you get friendly with those passages? Is the intent of our reading. The getting your ability to comprehend better is the other objective of our reading,
Okay.
right? To comprehend quickly is the major uh, aim of reading, because it's 65 minutes or 52 questions, right? It requires this thing.
Right. Right. Thanks a lot, sir. I guess we have covered up almost all the questions. It was really a good session for everyone. I hope so, and also for me, got to know how exactly the different perspective we can have about preparing for reading section specifically. And so I would like to end up the session over here. Lastly, one of the students just wanted to say hi, saying a big fan of yours. So that's really great. Uh,
All right, very nice. Thank you so much.
So yeah, hold your tempo high. We have yet more sessions to go, and we'll surely get back with the ACT sessions. So thank you once again a lot. It was really a great session. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you so much. Nice being with you. Thank you so much.